Hey everyone, Viva Physical Media, episode 37. And we're here to talk to you about movies.
Here we are.
Here we are.
What's been going on?
It was your birthday.
It was my birthday.
It was Kevin's birthday. We didn't have it on a show this year.
No, we didn't get to do no cake or anything on the show.
We did hang out off camera.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that you weren't involved.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot of fun.
We won't talk about it too much. Oh, except I will, real quick, since we're talking about it up front, Emalie brought me, one of the presents Emalie got me was this, I don't know if you can see it over there. I'll post a picture, a close-up of it. It is UV cake, white cake flavored vodka.
Okay, I don't like how it's called UV because it reminds me of UV rays and like maybe that's poison.
Yeah, but I guess we'll find out.
How does it smell?
It smells like birthday cake.
Okay. Cheers.
Now you're gonna have all the mutant powers of cake.
Oh, that's pretty good. It tastes like funfetti vanilla frosting.
Okay.
I wasn't mad at that.
No, it's not bad. I was worried a little.
I was scared. I was really scared. No, it was cool. I feel like mixed with Sprite, that would be like a very sweet, tasty cocktail.
So there you go. Mix that with Sprite and pair it with...
Pick up some UV cake.
And pair it with your favorite birthday-themed movie.
Yeah. Telethon, May 14th. You guys better clear your calendars and/or start planning a big party for when you and all your friends are going to be watching our telethon at home.
And if you are planning a big party, like while we're doing the telethon, send us photos and videos of you having a party. Please. And we'll put it on the air for you.
That would be so... If I wasn't hosting this telethon and I was like at home, I would throw a party and like have people over to watch the telethon, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would hope I would be invited to your party, but if not, I'd throw my own.
No, I'd invite you, but then if you were throwing one and maybe I didn't feel like it, I would go to yours. Anyways, whatever you're doing on May 14th, just make sure that you're tuning in to the Scarecrow Video Telethon. It's on YouTube.
It's going to be a lot of fun stuff.
It's going to be fun. Who knows what'll happen, obviously, because it's live. So, live. You guys know what happens on live TV.
It's going to be crazy.
The Oscars.
It's going to be crazy.
I'm going to slap Kevin for putting my wife's name in his mouth. We're still working on our Patreon, so please keep letting us know the ideas that you have. Stuff you want to see.
Anything you'd like on there.
Your VIP level.
Yep. In sort of to go along with the Patreon and stuff, we also did this. We did a general Scarecrow survey recently, and there were some Viva questions on there.
Maybe you contributed.
Maybe you contributed. There's a little graph here and stuff.
But how many times have I told you, don't say and stuff. Just say, Dad, there are whores here.
If you watch the show, what do you like? What don't you like? A lot of people... just like us, so that's good. At request for more rich, which I think
I also request more.
We're always doing that, but now it's officially in print that they want more rich, and so
we have a paper trail.
Pressure's on, buddy. It says Allura Cinephile, but then also this one just says one of them just says Richard. People want more versus content, so Raunch versus Rom, which we've got a new one tonight.
I like challenging you.
Yeah, it's fun. Also, a few people mentioned one, this is the main one I wanted to bring up, was the Don't Take Our Word For It segment, which I also want more of, but...
That depends on you guys.
Yeah, exactly. So now we're turning the tables onto you.
If you want to ever be involved in our show, that's awesome. And we would love if you would send us just a short recommendation or review of a movie that you want to highlight. You can just literally just do it on your phone and send it over, just a couple of minutes long.
Yeah.
We will feature it because we love hearing from everybody else because everyone's taste is so varied.
Absolutely.
And we want to represent that.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Especially, hey, Kevin.
Yeah.
You should leave.
Oh, okay.
I think you should leave. No boys allowed. Listen, you girlies out there, tell your boyfriends to leave. Tell your husbands to leave. Your partners, just get them out of here. I'm talking to you. You need to contribute, girl. Step it up. #girlboss your way into Viva Physical Media. And give us some reviews. I want to hear what you have to say. We need some ladies around. We need some non-binary. We need a little less cis heterosexual men. We need a little bit more of everything else. So I'm talking to you. Just give us some reviews. Let us know what you've been watching. We'd love it. All right, Kevin, you can come back in.
Okay. What'd I miss?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
It wasn't for me, so
yeah,
I don't need to know.
It's fine. It doesn't.
I'm on a need-to-know basis, and I don't need to know.
Send us your stuff.
Yes.
Anything else from that survey that we want to talk about?
Oh, I left the results over there. Not really. I mean, people seem to like most of the stuff. Somebody actually was like, "What's your favorite thing?" And someone was like, "The bucket and the beers the host drink."
And that's funny because we've 90% been drinking these Rainiers, and so I'm gonna keep my eye out for more interesting beers we can drink.
I'm drinking an Elysian.
Oh, you are not drinking
Architect limited edition American wheat ale.
How is that?
It's good.
Tight.
Yeah.
Tight.
You know, lives up to its name.
That's a Seahawks. That's
it's a Seahawks thing. Yeah. So
12 man over here, huh?
That's me. Yeah, you know me. I'm a big go down,
go
touchdown,
Hawks, go
touchdown,
Hawks.
Whatever.
Still, honestly, if you guys want to send us beer, we would still be happy to receive it. Someone said that it was illegal to send us beer, and I do believe that we perpetuated that rumor at one point, and I don't think it is.
I know that. I mean, I've had people mail me beer.
I think at one point we were like,
So-
oh, it's illegal. Just try. Just try to send us.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I mean-
we'll see what
I mean,
happens.
if
The
you
worst case scenario, they'll send it right back to you. You crack it open, you drink yourself.
Worst case scenario, you get arrested and go to jail. You know.
Whatever. Whatever. If you're like good friends with like a local brewery or something, we'd love to like represent some local beer places.
Like
That'd be
Elysian.
awesome. Like Elysian rules.
Yeah, so you know, or if you are watching and you're like, hey, wait, I'm one of the
Wait a
thousands of
minute.
people that has a local brewery.
Yeah.
Bring some of your beer in here.
not?
We'll plug it on our show.
Yeah, we will.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Here it goes. Here's the show.
Here's the show.
Kevin, I hope this is the best dang birthday you ever had.
All right, let's go. Time for another installment of Matt's Bad Blockbusters. Hopefully you all enjoyed my digressions about Speed 2. Today we're going to talk about possibly the best movie that came out of the 90s disaster movie boom. So, you know, Twister, Independence Day, big hits, started a whole run of action films that were disaster-based. Granted, this is no Armageddon, but it's better than Deep Impact, it's better than Volcano, it's way better than Twister. And we're talking about, of course, Dante's Peak. Directed by Roger Donaldson, starring Pierce Brosnan and Linda Hamilton, this is, without a doubt, the best dark horse disaster movie of the 90s. Pierce Brosnan plays a geologist who's an expert in volcanoes, and the movie starts with him escaping from an exploding volcano in South America, and it's throwing giant flaming rocks everywhere, and one, you know, unfortunately kills his wife, and he's traumatized. Cut to a few years later, and we're in a little town called Dante's Peak in the Pacific Northwest. This movie was shot in a town called Wallace, Idaho, not too far away from here. They're getting some rumblings, you know, the little seismological graphs are trembling. They call in the experts. Pierce Brosnan does the Jaws thing, like a Richard Dreyfuss in Jaws thing, where he's like, this volcano is gonna blow.
I thought this was supposed to be an extinct volcano.
Not extinct, just dormant, as in sleeping. And your volcano might just be waking up.
And the other scientists are like, you're paranoid, you're overreacting. The local townsfolk, including Linda Hamilton, the mayor Wando, they're all like, well, we can't just shut down the town because our economy is thriving.
He's going to take his $18 million, his 800 jobs, and he's going to evacuate.
And of course, you know, it turns out Pierce Brosnan is right. The volcano is going to explode. What I love about this movie is how simple it is. The first half of it is Pierce Brosnan trying to convince everybody that the volcano is going to explode and no one believes him. Second half, the volcano explodes and he has to save everyone. It's fucking awesome. And the best part is that once you get through all the melodrama of the first half, including a very corny romance between Pierce Brosnan and Linda Hamilton.
I've always been better at figuring out volcanoes than people in politics. Anyway, I just wanted to say I'm sorry if I caused you any trouble. And I just wanted to help.
You like eggplant parmesan?
Then you get to some of the most spectacular special effects of this movie's time. It's like in that border between analog and digital. So like once the volcano explodes, it's all practical effects. It's all miniature work. There's very little digital stuff here. Like, there are huge explosions from the volcano throwing off a pyroclastic cloud of like ash and smoke. And they just shot this with like a tube shooting dust at the camera in a parking lot. Or conversely, there are these gigantic miniatures, you know, with like huge forests of like destroyed trees like floating down the river. There's a big action sequence where a truck is trying to go over a bridge and the bridge is being swept away by this flood of ash and water. It's so awesome, and it's all very practical effects. You don't really see these kind of miniatures being deployed anymore. Of course, this is like 1996 or 97, so it was more common back then, but I feel like digital had kind of taken over, especially in movies like Twister, and you didn't see this as prominently as you would. Also, this has the funniest scene in any disaster movie of the time. It's even funnier than the scene in Volcano where John Carroll Lynch sinks into the lava in the subway tunnel. And there's a scene where Linda Hamilton and her 2 kids and her mother-in-law are trying to escape the lava flow, and they have to get in a boat and cross a lake, but the water in the lake is acidic now because of all of the volcanic activity.
Acid eats metal.
And so the water is eating the metal in the boat, and the boat is going to start singing. And so the mother-in-law, grandma, has to get out of the boat and push the boat to the shore, and her legs get eaten by the acid water. Poor grandma. And it also has the best lucky dog in the history of disaster movies. There are great lucky dogs in disaster movies. You probably remember the one from Independence Day. I'm a big fan of the one from Speed 2, which I talked about in the last version of this segment. But this one has a tremendous lucky dog.
You're gonna get one chance at this! Come on, Lucky, jump!
And I found out, just looking this up the other day, that the dog is part wolf. So good for him. This also features a really terrific score by James Newton Howard that I've always found really memorable, but mostly just like, it's so stripped down. It's totally no frills. It doesn't do anything extraneous. It's just A to B, like no one believes them, then the volcano explodes, and now all hell has broken loose. It also features a really, really interesting sort of climax where instead of a big chase sequence or a big action scene, it's Pierce Brosnan with a really gnarly compound fracture, like his leg is broken and the bone is sticking out, and he's buried in a mine shaft somewhere waiting for the people to rescue him. It's really, really good. Dante's Peak, man. You owe it to yourself to check this out if you're an aficionado of this kind of garbage movie from the 90s. Terrific.
Yes, it's coffee time. Coffee, 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 coffee. Cappuccino. Java, yes.
All right, you guys, it's time for your favorite segment. Raunch versus
Rom.
We have to tell you guys who won last time.
Oh yeah, we got the results for the last one. So
we have the results.
Last time it was Raunch versus Rom was California Hot Wax versus 27 dresses. And the clear winner by a million miles
was California Hot Wax. Yeah, you guys chose it, so you better watch it. And, and
yeah, and I mean, I don't know, you probably will like it more than 27 Dresses. No one was on the 27 Dresses team.
I'm glad you guys liked the idea of California Hot Wax, if not the actual movie. We have 2 new contenders today. Mm-hmm. And so on my side of the ring, this side of the ring is Car Hops. AKA Kitty Can't Help It.
Oh my.
1975, directed by Peter Locke.
In my corner is 500 Days of Summer. 2009. 2009, directed by Mark Webb. And I didn't realize until after I'd picked this one that the last 3 movies I've picked for this segment were 10 Things I Hate About You,
27 Dresses, 500 Days of
Summer.
You're a numbers guy. You're a numbers guy.
I'm getting out of the numbers game next time. I don't know what it's going to be.
I mean, I finally made it out of California. Even if I'm still in California, that's not the title.
And this has Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who was also in 10 Things I Hate About You. So you got 2 minutes to basically say, like, here's what's going on with Car Hops.
Okay, I'll do it.
I'll have 2 minutes to say, like, here's what's going on with 500 Days of Summer. And then we'll have a sort of, secondary, here extra stuff real quick. And then, and then from that, y'all are gonna have to, just send us your votes in the comments as to which one you think is the winner. This one actually seems like it might be a closer race. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Go.
Okay, this movie is called Car Hops. It is directed by Peter Locke. It was made in 1975, which was 47 years ago, which is crazy. Right. This movie is about a girl named Kitty who finally moves out of her parents' house, and she moves into a house in LA, we're still in California, with like 4 other girls. And she really wants to lose her virginity, but she just can't seem to find the right guy. Luckily, all these girls that she moves in with are like, oh my God, like you should just fuck my boyfriend. Because like they need to like stop being so uptight, and I think it would really work out for us, but also like it would really work out for you. And Kitty's like, oh, I guess that's fine if you're fine with it. So they're all good friends, and she just goes on a series of dates with her roommates' dumb boyfriends, including one guy who is just like a comedian guy, and 2 guys who are just kind of stupid, and then this other guy. It's not a very good movie. That's why I don't have a lot to say about it. But it's starring Ushi Degard, who is a porn star, according to Kevin.
She's in softcore
She's
stuff
known for
mostly.
Her body attributes.
Thank you, thank you, men.
There you go.
And then we also have Kitty Carl, who is the titular Kitty. Then we have Faye Duet, a bunch of cute girls, and they're like, oh no, you gotta just like date my boyfriend. He sucks. You'd make him better, and also you can finally lose your virginity. So it was kind of cool because it was like female friendship kind of movie, and they all lived in this house, and it was super low budget, super low quality. They're car hops, but it just shows them at the restaurant for a second, and then it shows them just this girl going on dates with the guys, and that's pretty much it.
Done.
Beat that.
You made it. All right, I'll see if I can remember what happened in 500 Days of Summer when I watched it over a week ago.
Right?
Okay. Go. Okay, and in my corner I've got 500 Days of Summer starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Zooey Deschanel. Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays a guy whose name I forget. Who gives a shit? He's sort of this douchey guy. And I mean, I think he's not meant to be douchey, but he's a little... It's 2009 and they're like a little douchey. He's either not meant to be douchey or he's meant to be douchey. This is a problem with the movie a little bit. But the movie actually is pretty good. I went into this thinking I was going to find this movie insufferable. I'd avoided it since 2009.
I love that you've never seen it.
And I kind of thought it was pretty good. Zooey Deschanel, who I had a huge crush on back in the early 2000s, is actually the best thing in the movie. She's really good, but the movie is told from his point of view. He's basically like running through this, his memories of his 500 Days of Summer, summer being Zooey Deschanel's character, and he's essentially remembering all of these days. And the movie's done an interesting structure where it will have a number pop up on screen, and so it jumps around in time, and it's kind of cool because it's actually like going through a relationship how you do in your mind, where you don't just remember your relationship in the order it happened. Yeah. You jump around and go like, I remember this part, and you mostly, like what he does in this movie, remember the good stuff, until you are told by somebody, in this case his young sister, played by Chloe Grace Moretz, who's one of those kids who's smarter than every adult in the movie or whatever, and probably smarter than any adult on the planet. So it's kind of, it starts off in the movie as like, this is not a love story. And so from the start that it's going to be a romantic comedy drama, but also not be about how these guys end up together, most likely. And which is good, because when you get to the end of the movie, you're like, yeah, she shouldn't be with this guy. And then, you know, it's their whole sort of relationship. And at the very end of the movie, he goes in for a job interview and meets a girl named Autumn.
I almost rewatched that before this episode because it's been so long since I've watched it. When I first saw that movie, I really liked it. And then I feel like the discourse and the online talk about it kind of like fucked up its reputation. And it became like kind of the blueprint for like the manic pixie dream girl, a shitty indie boy type
it's weird
romance.
Because
and
yeah.
Which kind of in the same way that kind of ruined Garden State for me. When I first saw it, I really loved Garden State, and then because of everything that happened afterwards, I was like, well, that was a dumb movie. And then I was like, well, was it really, Emily? Like, do you actually like it? I don't know. Would love a Garden State 500 Days of Summer Night, and like, you know, I might do that for myself soon.
What else you got to say about Car Hops?
I'm bringing out the big guns. The person who directed Car Hops, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but his name is Wes Craven, and he edited Car Hops.
What?
The director of Car Hops also was the producer of all of the Hills Have Eyes movies, producer of But I'm a Cheerleader, producer of Brave Little Toaster, producer of the live-action Pinocchio, producer of Unlikely Angel with, you know, Dolly Parton.
I don't know that one, but
this movie has some sex scenes, not a lot to really consider it a raunch. It's mostly like just really shittily filmed, poor quality, independent cinema about this girl trying to lose her virginity and these women trying to help her. The Car Hops section is literally only a little bit of it at all, so it kind of sucks. But I'm happy to have seen it because it was kind of a welcome break from all the 80s, early 90s car wash movies I had been watching. And then at the end there was some like kind of like suspenseful, violent scenes with like this crazy guy who came with a knife, and then it's like, oh, you know, I mean, Wes Craven and the guy who produced Hills Have Eyes were involved, so maybe they have a little bit of their suspenseful taste influencing it. I'm not going to say I wouldn't recommend it because I want to win the Raunch versus Rom, but it wasn't my favorite. Look at the box art. It's painted box art.
I do like that.
And then the back, we also have more characters back here. Come on and drive on in. They'll make you want to come again. That's sexual.
No tagline here.
What was that? Turn it back around?
It's not a tagline. It's just a review.
Smart, sexy, and seriously funny. Okay, funny thing about that, that's my favorite. They use that Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind on the cover of that DVD. They also have the same smart, sexy, and seriously funny.
Is it Peter Travers from Rolling Stone? Probably. Peter Travers.
They just put that on everything, which is really funny.
The director Mark Webb went on to do the two Amazing Spider-Man movies with Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. And then he did two movies that I don't know anything about, one called Gifted and one called The Loneliest Boy in New York. This was his debut movie. And the writer, there's a thing at the very beginning of this movie that's like actually kind of puts you off. There's a thing that's like, nobody in this movie is based on a real person. I'm looking at you, and it names a girl, and then it says, and then these are title cards, and then it says, bitch. It's clearly supposed to be like a joke, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's weird that this movie, which is otherwise kind of charming, starts that way. It put both Sophie and I off when we watched it. We were kind of like,
has she never seen it either?
No, she hadn't seen it either, and we both liked it ultimately, despite Jago Lev being kind of a serious, often insufferable douchebag. There's this one amazing sequence though in the movie where it has like a split screen. It shows his expectation and the reality of what happens when he's going to this party after he meets back up with Summer later after they'd been split up for a long time, and it's like in his expectation, it's like he's gonna hook up with her, and in the reality, it's like he goes to this party and is like alone, and she like has a new fiance and boyfriend and stuff. Whether or not we've been in that exact situation, we've all been in a situation like that. The Manic Pixie Dream Girl thing, I don't know that it's like weird because I thought that going in, but it doesn't actually kind of work with this because she is in his mind, but it's sort of commenting on that a little bit. Because in the whole point of the movie is that at the end of the day, she's like, you were projecting all of your stuff onto me and thinking I'm the perfect girl for you.
Yeah.
but that was never what I was. So that's the difference between this and Garden State. Was in Garden State he meets her and she's like, listen to this song, it'll change your life. And that's literally who she is. She's like a girl who has seizures and listens to the Shins. And in this, like, she's like not exactly maybe what he was looking for. But she likes the Smiths, but it's all from his perspective. So it's sort of like by the time you get to the end, you're like, is that even the person that she is? Yeah. Or is this just like him? We're only seeing it through his eyes.
Right.
I read an interesting article on the AV Club, which there's this, I can't remember the woman's name, but she's writing these articles about rom-coms, and she went on 27 Dresses that was very informative, and went on this, and
just called guiding you through this.
Called it the Fight Club of rom-coms.
Yeah.
And
a lot of like college bros, douchebags, I feel like read that wrong.
Yeah, and they read it that way.
They don't read it as a commentary on the masculinity.
And and this movie's a little like that, whereas like, and I think it's the fault. I think it's like it's the fault of the filmmakers because in Fight Clubs, that's a whole other conversation. But in the Fight Club and in the case of this, where you kind of go like, well, I don't know that we're totally like, the filmmakers are clearly like, I think they're going like, well, you're not supposed to like the Joseph Gordon-Levitt character necessarily, but you're also like, but are we? I feel like a lot of people would watch this and go like, yeah, he's right. She sucks because she didn't like him enough or whatever. Same as people would watch Fight Club and go like, David Fincher made a really cool looking movie. We should start Project Mayhem. The 500 Days of Summer, a much more interesting movie than I was expecting. There's some fun stuff. There's little musical numbers and things that I actually found quite charming.
And Joseph Gordon-Levitt's a big musical theater bitch. So.
And Jago Lev, yeah, he has a real Tom Cruise energy in this, which I don't mean as a compliment necessarily. By the end of this, I was like, I don't hate him, but
do I like him?
No.
Well, you guys need to let us know in the comments below who is your winner in this Raunch versus Rom. Is it Car Hops, 1975, Peter Locke?
Or is it 500 Days of Summer, 2009, Mark Webb?
You be the judge. Let us know in the comments, or you can email us, viva@scarecrow.com, with your Raunch versus Rom winner. Raunch versus Rom. Ah. You want to talk about anything you've been watching lately?
Not really. No, okay, I will.
You want to talk about anything?
I will. I'll talk about movies since we're here. My first pick, actually, like last time, is inspired by another new movie that just came out. It's one of my favorite filmmakers who I've talked about a lot on the show, and I'm going to talk about again tonight. Richard Linklater, and he has a new movie called Apollo 10½.
Did you watch that?
I did. I loved it. And I'm going to get my soapbox for a second here because I'm actually kind of bummed
that it wasn't in theaters.
That it's not in theaters because it's only on Netflix, and I
didn't even know it was on Netflix.
Yeah, and there's my next point is that I'm not necessarily only bummed because it's not in theaters. Although I would love to see it in theaters, and it did play in like Austin and New York and a few places, and it might show up at a theater here. But the fact is that like Richard Linklater, who I think is he's one of the greatest living American filmmakers, just has a movie that just kind of just is dumped onto Netflix. I found out when it was coming out. I'm a huge Linklater fan. I'd seen the trailer. I didn't know it was coming out so soon until I had like the freeze screen on Netflix one night, and like the card came up and it was like coming out April 1st. I'm like, that's next week. I wish there was a theatrical release for these movies. I wish it wasn't just sort of dumped on the streaming service. And if it was dumped on the streaming service, I wish that there was more sort of celebration. It feels like a lot of these movies...
I didn't even know that was out yet, even until like just now.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the filmmakers are happy. A lot of these filmmakers who are making movies for these streaming services are happy because they're getting their movies made, and these places are actually paying them, whereas like studios aren't anymore.
Right.
Which is, so that's cool, but like it takes the sort of specialness of a new movie by a filmmaker.
The marketing's non-existent.
Yeah, I'm excited about this movie coming out, and now it's sort of like, here it is,
Or like, here it is, oh yeah, it's been here for like 5 days, you just didn't know.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorite movies of the year, too. But it got me thinking, and this is one I'd wanted to do a while ago, but it was like, oh, well, that's a good chance, is to talk about his first animated film, because Apollo 10½ is another animated movie by Linklater. He's done 3, but his first one, which is Waking Life. I'm a huge fan of this movie.
It's good.
I think this movie's great. It's sort of like a spiritual sequel to his first movie, Slacker. Wiley Wiggins plays this guy who's probably, most likely in a dream, wandering around, listening to people, talking to people, lots of people talking about dreams.
I just woke from a dream. It wasn't like a typical dream. It seemed more like I'd walked into an alternate universe or something.
Yep, it's real. I mean, technically, it's a phenomenon of sleep, but you can have so much damn fun in your dreams.
People not talking about dreams.
When I say love, the sound comes out of my mouth and it hits the other person's ear, travels through this Byzantine conduit in their brain, you know, through their memories of love or lack of love. And they register what I'm saying and they say, yes, they understand. But how do I know they understand? Because words are inert. They're just symbols. They're dead.
And it feels like a dream because it's very random. They've shot all of it on digital video and rotoscoped over it, but like the way they rotoscoped is it's like a bunch of different artists each doing different scenes, and so
this was probably the first time I had seen that type of animation ever too.
And that's wild because usually rotoscoping is like the Ralph Bakshi kind, which is like where it kind of is trying to replicate reality, like Scanner Darkly.
It was this, and then Scanner Darkly was their first two.
Yeah, and Scanner Darkly is closer to what rotoscoping usually looks like, where it's trying to replicate, where you're like, Keanu Reeves stars in this movie, we'll draw him like Keanu Reeves. Whereas this is sort of like, they sort of went like, all the artists get to do their own styles.
Yeah.
And so it has this very free-flowing feeling to it.
I haven't fired this in such a long time, I don't even know if it'll work.
Why don't you pull the trigger and find out?
And I don't know, I watch this about once a year. I watched it the other day and fell asleep watching it, and it was kind of like, it really kind of infected my dreams a little, you know?
Right.
It's kind of cool. There's even a part where Linklater's in it. He has a cameo in a lot of his movies, but he's playing like pinball towards the end of the movie.
You know, you guys, I'm pretty good at pinball. We found that out at Kevin's birthday, right, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm terrible at pinball. That's right, you like, yeah.
Baywatch pinball, you guys did really good.
There's not a plot to the movie, really. It's sort of just him going through meeting these different people, having these conversations. It is before sunset. There's one scene with Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy in bed together.
I forgot about that.
It's cool because it's kind of like, almost like, whose dream is this then? Because like, it was before sunset, so it was before they actually met back up again.
And when they didn't know if either of them were going to show up.
Right, so what are you saying? That reincarnation doesn't exist? Or that we're all young souls? Like half of us are first-round humans? I mean,
No.
No,
what I'm trying to say is that...
What's your point?
Somehow I believe reincarnation is just a poetic expression of what collective memory really is.
Super inventive, super inspiring. And on this DVD, there's 2 commentary tracks. There's one with Linklater and some other people, and then there's like one that's like all the animators. No Blu-ray release here. What? There's Blu-ray releases in other countries, I think, but not in the U.S.
That's weird.
Linklater is always out there just doing you know, his experiments, and I think this is one of his more interesting ones, up there with like you know, Boyhood and the Before trilogy. Check out Waking Life if you haven't.
Or give it a revisit. Okay, so the movie I'm going to talk about today is Elvis by John Carpenter.
16 What's that about?
All right, so this movie came out in 1979. It's a biopic about Elvis Presley, who passed away in 1978, I believe.
Shortly before this was made.
My beloved Kurt Russell stars as Elvis in one of his first...
Our beloved Kurt Russell.
One of his first adult roles.
You don't own Kurt Russell here.
I mean, this kind of kickstarted Kurt Russell's adult career. As you know, he was a child star for Disney in a million fucking old Disney movies. It also kickstarted his partnership with John Carpenter because, as probably you guys know, he was in The Thing, Escape from New York, Escape from LA, Big Trouble in Little China, etc., etc. With John Carpenter, they had a long partnership. This is the first one. So this movie was a biopic about Elvis Presley, starting from when he was very young up until his comeback tour in 1968, where he went to Vegas after 10 years of being in the military and focusing on an acting career that was just him kind of doing bullshitty movies that he wasn't ever like super stoked on, and nothing really of substance.
Play the set, I said.
Hey, the only reason we do these stupid movies because it's supposed to be fun, you know what I mean? I think once they cease to be fun, then I think we'll cease to be doing them.
So he hadn't been on the stage in about 10 years. Then he came back and did this tour in 1968, and he died. What we know about Elvis when he died was all the drugs and the shitty diet and all the alcohol and all the depression and everything, and that ended his life. So this movie kind of avoids all that. And at first I was like, well, why isn't this movie talking about the shit, like the fucked up stuff?
Right.
And then I realized it came out so quickly after Elvis passed away. And then I further read that John Carpenter was such a big fan of Elvis, and he doesn't really like this movie. Looking back, he doesn't think that.
Oh, really?
He had a lot of issues with the editing, a lot of issues.
Okay.
He didn't have time to help with the soundtrack or the score.
This was a TV movie, if I'm not mistaken?
It was a TV movie, yeah.
Okay, well, like a miniseries?
And so he wasn't stoked on it, but every time anyone asked him why he even did it, his response was, I love Elvis. He was like, I was a big fan of Elvis. I cared about Elvis as a person. I fucking love the guy. And I believe it, because this movie, it doesn't exploit the fucked upness of what happened to Elvis. It kind of presents the tale of like the icon and an illustration of the godlike rock and roll star that everyone saw. So it was like, here's how this guy got to be who we fucking love.
So we'll have to wait for Baz Luhrmann's to see the real dark side.
Some interesting stuff about this movie, Elvis's dad was played by Bing Russell, Kurt Russell's actual dad.
Aww.
Which I fucking loved.
Yeah, maybe I ain't been encouraging about you being a singer, but I want you to be happy, son.
Kurt Russell has kind of a history with the Elvis character. He played Elvis in 3,000 Miles to Graceland later. Yep. He voiced Elvis in Forrest Gump, uncredited.
I told you not to bother this nice young man.
Oh, no, that's all right, man. I was just showing him a thing or two on the guitar here.
Nice, yep.
When he was younger, he was actually in a movie with Elvis called It Happened at the World's Fair, where Kurt Russell actually...
Filmed in Seattle.
Filmed in Seattle, didn't know that actually.
At the World's Fair in Seattle.
At the World's Fair in Seattle, where Kurt Russell actually kicked Elvis in the shins. That was the first time Kurt Russell had met Elvis, and I guess he really didn't want to do it.
How would you like to kick me in the shin?
How would I like to kick you in the shin? Mister, are you drunk?
And Elvis had to be like, listen, someone's gonna give you like $10 to do. Like, someone's gonna pay you some money if you just kick me in the shins.
Listen, little man.
Listen, little man.
You're gonna kick me in the shins. You're gonna be famous one day.
Do it. And then later he went on to play him. It was just kind of funny. Kurt Russell is like so effortlessly charming in this, and like has the very similar physicality to Elvis in this. It's like perfect.
What kind of singer are you?
All kinds.
Who do you sound like?
I don't sound like nobody.
Hillbilly?
Yeah, I sing hillbilly.
Who do you sound like in Hillbilly?
I don't sound like nobody.
He didn't sing his own songs. It was dubbed over by a singer named Ronnie McDowell, who did an excellent job, sounded exactly like Elvis, and the lip syncing, it matched up really perfectly, whereas I could have been like, well, did Kurt Russell sing that? This was a really interesting thing to watch. Shelley Winters is in it as Kurt Russell's mom, or
Elvis's mom. Yeah.
She plays such an amazingly emotional, like, mother in it, like, very, very, like, I don't know. I almost cried a few times because of her.
Elvis, I think that you're the best son any woman ever had.
No, it was great. It was a really fun but also eye-opening movie. And at first I was a little bit like, you know, why didn't they include all this stuff? But then it kind of became clear that the purpose of this was a different purpose than just showing the ups and downs. This was to show the icon and the king, if you will. It's been on my list to watch for a while, so if you're a John Carpenter fan, it's an interesting kind of departure from the rest of the stuff he's done. If you're a Kurt Russell fan, I believe it's essential to complete. You should watch this, Kevin.
You know, if I have seen it, it's been so long that I've forgotten most of it. Or I think I saw like maybe the shorter movie version. But now we have like the full. This is like the full.
Yeah,
TV.
it's like a little over.
Minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a little over 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Give it a shot.
Just can't get used to this newfangled stove.
My next movie is one of the best movies of 1997, and it is called EVE'S BAYOU. It features one of Sam Jackson's 2 great performances from 1987, along with his performance in Jackie Brown. EVE'S BAYOU is kind of, it's I guess like a gothic drama. Takes place in the swamps
that's what I've been wondering.
Louisiana.
This has been on like a bunch of horror lists that I've seen.
No, it's not a horror movie.
And I've never seen it, so I've always kind of wondered the vibe of this.
Well, so basically it's all narrated by this, it's narrated by...
Kind of like folkloric.
Yeah, it's narrated by an older woman, but it's the character of Eve, who's played by Judy Smollett in her first, I think it's her first role, if not, it's close, but you've seen her in other stuff, most recently probably in Lovecraft Country, although she's also in my beloved Friday Night Lights. But
you do love Friday Night Lights, you do.
So this takes place in like the early 1960s, okay. But it's all narrated by her, and it starts off with this voiceover about...
The summer I killed my father, I was 10 years old.
That's how the movie starts off. So then you kind of go, the whole movie you're going like, okay, so how does she kill her father? A little bit of like magical realism, some voodoo, some sort of...
Is this based off a book at all?
No, I don't think so. They have this happy family. She has an older sister who is like the apple of her father's eye. She's a younger brother, played by Judy Smollett's actual younger brother. So they have some funny scenes together where they're like, you're like, this might just be them being brother and sister because they're shitty to each other. One night at this party at their house, she goes out to the shed. It all takes place in like this big house, in this like swamps of New Orleans, Louisiana kind of area. She wakes up and her dad is like... And she like sort of goes like, I don't know what's going on, and he goes, oh, what you saw wasn't what you saw, So there's a lot of this sort of like, what you saw isn't what you saw. There's an event later on that happens between Samuel Jackson and her sister that's told from a couple different perspectives, and it's left ambiguous enough from the different stories that you're not entirely sure what happened, but it's kind of the catalyst that leads to all of this tragedy. Yeah. Her aunt is like a psychic, and she tells this great story. Her aunt is a psychic has a terrible track record with men. All three of her husbands have died. She's telling a story about one of her husbands when he was shot, and it's all told in this like mirror, like she is telling a story and Eve's looking in the mirror, and then you see the guys in the background kind of come in. It's one of those tricks where you go like, oh, this is so simple but so magical.
I walked slowly over. And I stood next to my husband.
I remembered loving it back in 1997 when I last saw it, and I hadn't seen it since then, and I think I loved it even more now. It's really good, it's haunting, but also it's like really full of life. And it's written and directed by Cassie Lemons. People mostly remember her as Jodie Foster's friend in Silence of the Lambs. She's also in Spike Lee's School Days and several other movies before becoming a writer-director herself and directing this. Yeah, there's also a cool short film on this DVD called Dr. Hugo. We were talking about short films in our last mailbag, so there's a really funny one on here that's sort of like goes from where a scene in this movie goes to, but then goes a little further. Yeah, EVE'S BAYOU. I don't know. It's a great movie that I think has kind of been forgotten by time. Take a trip to EVE'S BAYOU.
You said you wanted him dead. You said you were certain.
My movie that I'm going to talk about, my last movie today, is going to be My Brilliant Career by Gillian Armstrong. This will be the second Gillian Armstrong movie we've talked about on the show, the first being Starstruck.
Not even close to your second Australian movie that you've talked about on the show.
No, I'm a big Australian bitch. Also, 2 weeks ago, I watched Charlotte Gray, another movie by Gillian Armstrong, which was pretty good also. Okay. Turns out she's a great director. Oh, this is also 1979. Same year as Elvis came out. So I guess I just am a 1979 person this week.
Nice.
So this is Judy Davis's second movie, her first starring role.
Here is the story of my career. My brilliant career.
This was Gillian Armstrong's first feature film, and it's a period piece taking place in the late 19th century based off a novel about this woman named Sibylla who grew up poor, and she is obsessed with the arts and being creative, and she wants to be a writer, and she wants to be around cultured people, but she lives in like a really shitty, poor part of the bush. Her parents are like, you need to get married, and she's like, you know, fuck marriage. Like, I don't want to be married. Like, look at me. She's like, I'm plain looking, and I love writing. Like, I don't want to be married, like, unless I'm marrying for love, and that's not going to happen. And they're like, well, your wealthy aunt says you could stay with her. So she goes and she lives with her wealthy aunt for a little bit, and it's there that she meets a young Sam Neill. Young, very handsome Sam Neill.
Need a hand?
No, thank you.
You're, new here, aren't you? Do you work in the kitchen?
I'd be obliged to you, sir, if you'd take yourself out of the way. Unless you want me foot in your big fat face.
That's when it kind of challenges her, what she thought about her future and what she wants to do. Because she's like, well, I wanted to be independent and be a writer, and I still don't think I'm very beautiful. That's the whole thing. It's like she keeps like talking about how plain she is, but it's like, it's Judy Davis, and she's like actually really beautiful in this movie. So you're just kind of like, okay, suspension of disbelief, it's cinema, whatever. But Sam Neill falls in love with her, and they have this adorable like courtship where they're not officially dating, but they're like flirting all the fucking time. And there's this beautiful scene where they're like having this pillow fight, chasing each other through these like fields and through these forests, and like with pillows and like pillow fighting each other, and it's like super cute, like flirtation. He proposes to her multiple times, and she's just like, I don't think so. Like, she's like, I still want to be a writer. And it's basically, this whole movie is her trying to balance her dreams for herself as a woman in late 19th century with society's expectations of her having to marry to actually become someone.
Now, believe me, Sibylla, the best kind of marriage is not love marriage, but friendship marriage. Friendship? Yes.
As well as her looking at herself being like, well, am I even beautiful, and does that even matter? And I think it's a really amazing piece of feminist filmmaking for sure. And it's also like really funny at times, beautifully filmed. Like where they place it in Australia is gorgeous. Gillian Armstrong is an amazing director. Judy Davis is awesome. Sam Neill is like a smug little sexy asshole. It won a bunch of Australian Academy Awards when it came out. And apparently Judy Davis really didn't like the movie and didn't like her character, which is interesting because I feel like it's like really great. But yeah, everyone should check this out. Gillian Armstrong, if you're not super familiar, she did the 96 Little Women, which is amazing. If you have been watching our show, she did Starstruck, which we both really enjoyed. She's a great director, focusing a lot on female stories of independence and finding your way in a society that's built against you, basically. My Brilliant Career is an awesome depiction of that, and an amazing first feature for sure.
And it's on Criterion.
And it's on Criterion.
Blu-ray and DVD, I assume.
Yep.
How did you come across this movie recently?
This is one of my rare rewatches.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is one of those rare ones. I had seen it a couple years ago, and recently my friend Sandra decided on this movie for a girls' night at Beacon. So we all rewatched it, screening at Beacon. I think me and Sandra were the only ones there that had seen it before. So it was like,
oh, cool.
It was like 15 or 16 other people there that had never seen this movie, and almost everyone afterwards was like, okay, that was amazing. So it was one of those
awesome.
Yeah, like, oh, fuck yeah, like we picked a good one, you know?
The power of cinema. And with a group of people, like when you're sort of stuck there watching it that way is like it's a great experience to see the movie that way.
Totally.
I'm going to rent it now.
Yeah, check out My Brilliant Career if you haven't seen it. And if you have, give it a rewatch. Dog movie this week is
ZOLTAN, Hound of Dracula, a.k.a.
Dracula's Dog. which has a better cover and a better title, I think.
I like the title better, yeah. Although now that I think of it, I think it should be called Dogula.
Dogula's cool, I like Dogula.
Zoltan is a common name for a dog in Europe.
No,
just like Rover
isn't
and
it?
Fido are common names for dogs in America.
Oh my God, no.
Which I found out on like IMDb or Wikipedia trivia or something.
Okay.
Where I was like, and I when they say Europe, they mean like Eastern Europe.
My fun fact about Zoltan is that the makeup artist for this movie, his name was Zoltan Ellick, and he also did the makeup effects for the movie Mask, which we talked about in our first episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Whoa, crazy.
Isn't that weird?
That is weird. His name was Zoltan and the dog's name Zoltan? All right, well, anyway, it's about Zoltan, who's the Hound of Dracula, a.k.a. Dracula's dog.
Yeah. Directed in 1978 by Albert Band, which, yes, he is the dad of Charles Band,
That's
if you
true.
were curious.
Yep. Well, this is about Dracula's dog. It's legit. It's literally about how these communist soldiers in Romania are tearing up a place, although it's filmed in, like, fucking, California.
Like Ohio.
Yeah, it's all it's filmed, like, outside of Los Angeles, but they're all dressed in, like, and none of them have accents or whatever. Like, one lady has an accent. But anyway, they're, like, digging up some place, blowing up a place.
They do a blast. The underground
labeled.
blasting uncovered a Dracula tomb, is what she says.
You are right. Definitely a vampire tomb.
To one guard, they're like, you guard it. We're going to go away. You stay here all night. And the guy's like, all right, that's kind of creepy to guard a tomb, but whatever. One of the coffins, like, opens up. One of the two best parts of the movie is then out of that coffin jumps a dog.
Like a Doberman.
It's sort of a Doberman.
Kind of a Doberman hound.
Mix. I don't know what kind of dog it is.
At the beginning, we see, before this happened, we see the context of this guy try to bite this woman's neck, and the dog kind of blocks the guy.
Right.
Blocks this guy from from vampiring this woman. And then the guy is super pissed, so he turns into a bat and then flies down to where the dog is like tied up and bites this dog. Turning him into
Dracula's dog.
Dracula's dog.
Its eyes,
glowing. It's like
glowing.
two white. It's really funny because
They do, which I do
kind
constantly during the
and
movie.
I might still do this, but I was gonna like Photoshop my dog's face with the two white, and I think I still might do it because they have similar face shapes.
Jose Ferrer shows up and he's some kind of detective, and they're like,
that guy sucks.
And they're like, we need to. He's old, and they're like, we need to find out something, and the lady's like, well, there's a relative of the Draculas that lives in
young Michael Drake.
No, but he goes Michael Dracula. His name is Michael Dracula, and he lives
changed it to Michael Drake.
He changed it to Michael Drake, but they're like, Michael Dracula. He moved to Los Angeles.
And they're like, does he still exist? Like, is he still alive? Like, yeah, he's just like a dude.
He's just a fucking guy.
So then it cuts.
He's Michael Pataki. What do you want?
It cuts to a modern Yeah. What do you want?
It is Michael Pataki.
Awesome. It cuts to a modern family living in LA. They're packing for a camping trip, and they have two German shepherds who just had some puppies, and they were going to have their neighbor watch them, and the kids were really sad that they didn't get to take the dogs on vacation, and the wife's like, come on, Michael, we got to just take the dogs. And then Michael was like, okay, fine, we'll take these dogs to the camper. So they take the two German shepherds and their puppies on vacation with them, and they go camping.
Meanwhile, back in Romania or whatever, they've burned all the bodies, all the coffins, except two have been emptied. Dracula's dog's tomb is empty, and then the tomb of another Dracula.
Of Reggie Nalder, the actor.
But he was like he was like Zoltan's like master.
Yeah,
and Zoltan brought him back from. He opened his coffin too, and so they
both of them seek to be the servants of
Dracula.
Dracula. So they're like, well, the only last surviving member is Michael Dracula.
Yeah.
Cool. We're going to LA. We're gonna track him down so that we could serve him.
So they get on a boat and they're like stalking.
And can I talk about
Michael Dracula?
Fucking Reggie Nalder for a second, the guy who plays that guy, because he is so creepy looking. He's so fucking creepy looking, and I was like, this guy is such like a specific like hateful, evil thing to him, and then I found out he was also in Mark of the Devil, and I was like, it makes perfect sense. Like the 70s, just like really shitty dude vibe.
It is time.
Me describing Mark of the Devil as the 70s really shitty dude vibe, where these guys are torturing witches. So unrealistic to take 2 dogs and 2 tiny puppies camping. Stress.
Yeah.
That's what I wrote.
Also, there's a hilarious scene. There's a funny scene where Michael Dracula
They don't leash their dogs at all.
is holding one of the puppies, and they're talking, and he like does this. He goes. And he sets the puppy behind him, and the puppy like wanders off.
They are not even at a campground. They're not even at an official campground. They're like camping on the side of the lake or whatever. If you guys have heard us be stressed out before about these movies where people do not leash their dogs, this movie is like the worst one. I texted you and I was like, this is like the worst, like, you need to leash your dogs movie.
Well,
because half the movie is them chasing one of their 4 dogs around being like, where's this dog of ours?
And like at least 2 of their dogs and another dog by some other guys who are just happened to be like fishing get turned into vampire dogs by Zoltan.
On the neck. Only on the neck.
Going around vampiring these dogs.
'Cause I think he only can vampire other dogs, I guess.
I don't know. So he's turning all these other dogs into vampires, which is going to somehow then they're going and then they start trying to get Michael Dracula and his family. They start to attack them.
Also, there's a detective guy, Inspector Bronco, who is an actor who was in Dune.
That's Jose Ferrer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, he like explains to Mike Drake. That's what I call him, Mike Dracula. What's going on, and Mike Drake's like pretty receptive. He's like, okay, here, family, go home, take all the dogs that you can find because we don't care to find
left.
Because we don't care to find the rest of the dogs that we didn't properly leash. So like, go take the rest of the dogs home.
They're off looking for 'em.
I'm going to like stay the night. I'm gonna have a sleepover with this guy I've never met. And then we're gonna protect me from Dracula, from Dracula's servants, and then also the next day we're gonna like try to find them or whatever.
They keep going out looking for this puppy, and they're just going like, puppy. They do find the dead body of the puppy, and they bury it, and then it digs its way out.
Even after they're looking for these dogs, but then they're also understanding that they're part of this like Dracula scheme very separately, and it takes a very unrealistically long time for them to realize that they are actually looking for Dracula dogs.
And there are a lot of dogs in this. All the dogs are great. They're all running. They're all running around.
So many barking dogs. My dog was very. I watched this with my dog, and she was trying to nap during the whole thing because she was still kind of sick. But every like 5 minutes, she'd be like, "The fuck!"
And then he's out there in a shack with
he like
Jose Ferrer,
stays the night in the shack with Jose Ferrer.
And like all these dogs are like just trying to like.
They're
trying to like Evil Dead
clawing
their way
at the door, but they're not really. They're just kind of waiting it out inside, and it's weird because you would think it would be climactic, like something would happen, but it doesn't really ever.
And they end up in a car. The 2 fishermen are with them at some point.
Those guys are nice.
Those guys are nice guys. I actually feel sorry for those guys.
I do too, because they had a good. They were like, our dog would never be like mean. They were like, and it made me sad.
Their dog got turned into a Dracula.
Their dog got turned into a Dracula, but they kept being like, no, our dog would never like attack. So you got the feeling that their dog was like a really good boy that got turned into a Dracula.
Yeah, which was sad. At some point,
so weird.
they like have to like drive stakes into their hearts. The 2 fishermen have to do it to their dog, who's become a Dracula.
And it's sad because it's like, what did they have to do with any of this? Nothing. You know? They were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, you know?
At the end of this, then Dracula's dog is like, jumps off a cliff and like...
gets impaled.
Impales himself onto like a picket fence. And
it's very like if you've seen Revenge.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Except that dog doesn't pick itself off of it. And
right,
then,
and that dog,
with a beer
and this
can.
dog is the bad guy, not the hero.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise, very similar. Dracula's dog is dead. All the other dogs have been staked.
Yeah.
And it's a very like kind of sad scene where they're all just kind of, all these guys are kind of sitting there going like,
well, there's our dogs.
What's a bummer we had to kill
There's
all
our
these
fucking dogs.
We had to kill all these dogs. They're like, Dracula's dead. That's all of them, is what Jose Ferrer said.
And Mike Drake is the last Dracula, presumably, and he's an alright guy, so it's like that's gonna end with him.
He's like, all right, cool. Well, that's good. And then it's like, oh, there's a dead rabbit, or no, a dead owl. It's a beheaded owl, and it pans along all these like dead animals,
yeah.
and you're like, oh no, all these dead animals. What could this be? And you get to the end of this string of dead forest creatures. All-timer freeze frame ending.
This wasn't bad. I feel like we've watched a lot of shittier movies than this, for sure.
We've watched shittier ones. Yeah. But there's not a lot to it in the middle. It's sort of just like.
I almost was expecting worse from it, and I was surprised at what it showed me.
And we should say that this was recommended by by a friend of the show, Troy, who hadn't seen the movie. I think he like said something.
Wait, had he not actually seen it?
No, he was like, he sent us a thing that was like, this trailer looks cool, you guys should do this one. And we were like, yeah, let's do it. So it wasn't like it was a recommendation in the way that like, he has seen it now.
Okay, yeah.
I think he I think he knew we were doing it and was like, cool, I'm going to watch it. So.
Okay, well, this is dedicated to Troy. And if you guys out there are like, well, I want you guys to watch a dog movie that I know about, please give us some suggestions. So how many paws would you give this?
You know what? I'm only gonna give it 2.
I'm giving it 2 as well. And that's better than 1 or 1.5.
It's definitely better than half. 1. It's definitely better.
You know? And if you were a Dracula dog and you're turning into like a bat or whatever, you only need 2. You know, I did try to find out like the dog actors and anything.
Oh yeah,
like,
there's no information at all.
You can't. But Zoltan, I do believe in his heart of hearts, he's a good boy.
Oh yeah, he's just doing what he's just doing what he's supposed to.
He's a good boy.
He doesn't know any better.
What do we got next?
Oh, what do we got next?
I know what we got next.
What we got next is some weird thing that you found, which is...
I found working. And this is why video stores rule. Is because I was literally just working and I happened upon... Mr. Too Little. Look at him, he's too little.
It's like at a circus. There's going to be a tiger in this. It's from the children's section.
VHS only.
This is gonna be something. But
who knows, man? It could be really cool.
Circus thrills and puppy love come together under the big top in Mr. Too Little, and there's a picture of an explosion and a tiger on the back.
That's what I like to see. All right.
Whew.
Episode 37 in the bag.
We did it.
Anything in there?
Some stickers. A lot of stickers that we still need to put on the sticker.
Yeah, we will at some point in our lives do that. So yeah, if you guys like watching Viva Physical Media, please like it with a button.
Subscribe.
Comment. Share it.
Yeah.
Let us know who you think won the Raunch versus Rom.
Oh yeah, put all those comments on there.
Email us at viva@scarecrow.com. Come visit our store at Scarecrow Video in the U District of Seattle. Go to our website, scarecrow.com. You can rent by mail there. Keep an eye out for our telethon coming up May 14th.
Yep.
Check out our podcast, Scarecrow Radio, and Soundtrack Cinema.
Yep. You keep going.
Do I got it all?
You did it all. Yeah, you did it all.
Man,
all the links.
I was on a roll and I didn't want to stop.
All the links to a lot of that stuff was below in the comments from our survey. People were like, "We like the those don't take our word for it segments," and we do too. So again, to reiterate, send us those. And like you can just make a video yourself.
Yeah.
Shoot it over to viva@scarecrow.com. We'll pop it up onto the episode.
Shoot it over. We'll pop it up.
Exactly. All these different verbs.
I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's all.
We'll see you in a couple weeks. Yeah. As always, Viva Physical Media.
Media.
Bye.
Bye.